The public education system is a trap to keep you enslaved for your entire life. This is John D. Rockefeller, also the creator of the public education system. He also allegedly said, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of minds to think. We usually think of schools as environments to stimulate learning, but ironically manages to stifle the innate curiosity and the eagerness to learn that are present in all of us as children. It promotes mindless conformity and conveniently ignores the fact that we are all unique individuals with different talents, inclinations, and aspirations. School curtails independent thinking and puts all of us through standardized tests and sees it as a good indicator to determine someone's level of intelligence. The system, frankly, never made sense to me, and I would often sit in class and wonder how most of what I was taught in class would have any real-life application. But upon exploring the origins of the current education system, it has finally started to make perfect sense. And I have discovered that it is serving the very purpose it was designed to accomplish. What if I told you that it was never the objective of the current education system to nurture learning, curiosity, critical thinking, and creativity in students, but in fact to do quite the opposite? In this video, I'd like to share with you a compilation of information that reveal the veracity of this statement by uncovering the startling origins and purpose of the education system. The Factory Model of Education by the famous author and futuristic Alvin Toffler describes the origin of the current education system in his 1970s book entitled Future Shock: The American Education Model. Was actually copied from the 18th Peruvian model designed to create docile subjects and factory workers. Mass education was the ingenious machine constructed by the industrialism to produce the kind of adults it needed. How to pre-adapt children for a new world, a world in which time was to be regulated not by the cycle of the sun and the moon, but by the factory whistle and the clock. The solution was an educational system that, in fact, its very structure simulated this new world. This system did not emerge instantly. Even today, it retains throwback elements from pre-industrial society. Yet the whole idea of assembling masses of students, raw material, to be processed by teachers, workers, in a centrally located school, factory, was a stroke of industrial genius. The whole administrative hierarchy of bureaucracy, the very organization of knowledge into permanent disciplines, was grounded on the industrial assumptions. Children marched from place to place and sat in assigned stations. Bells rang in anticipatory mirror, a perfect introduction to the industrial society. The regimentation, lack of individualization, the rigid systems of seating, grouping, grading, and marking, the authoritarian role of the teacher built on the factory model, mass education, taught basic reading, writing, and arithmetic, a bit of history, and other subjects. The overt curriculum. Beneath it was the covert curriculum that was far more basic. It consisted of 3 courses: punctuality, obedience, and repetitive work. The basic training requirements to produce reliable, productive factory workers. Factory labor demanded workers who would take orders from a management hierarchy without questioning. And it demanded men and women prepared to slave away at the machines or in offices performing brutally repetitive jobs. The Rockefeller influence on the education system in the United States, industrialists like John D. Rockefeller poured a significant amount of investment into the education system. He created the General Education Board at the ultimate cost of $129 million and provided major funding for schools across the nation and was very influential in shaping the school system. He didn't exactly conceal his interest and motive in being actively involved in promoting the widespread adoption of the education system, and once stated, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." Business advisor to Rockefeller Frederick T. Gates, a prominent member of the General Education Board, stated, "We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or men of science. We have not raised up from among them authors, editors, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have an ample supply." Employers in industrial saw schooling as a way to create better workers. To them, the most crucial lessons were punctuality, following direction, tolerance for long hours of tedious work, and a minimum ability to read and write. From their point of view, though they may not have put it this way, the duller the subjects taught in school, the better. Repetition and memorization of lessons is tedious work for children whose instincts urge them constantly to play freely and to explore the world on their own. Just as children did not adapt readily to laboring in fields and factories, they did not adapt readily to schooling. This was no surprise to the adults involved. By this point in history, the idea that children's own willingness had any value was pretty well forgotten. Everyone assumed that to make children learn in school, the children's willfulness would have to be beaten out of them. Punishments of all sorts were understood and intrinsic to the educational process. In some schools, children were permitted certain periods of play, recess, to allow them to let off steam. But play was not considered to be a vehicle of learning. In the classroom, play was the enemy of learning. A prominent attitude of the 18th century school authorities towards play is reflected in John Wesley's rule for Wesleyan schools, which included the statement, "As we have no play days, so neither do we allow any time for play on any day. For he that plays as a child will play as a man." In the 19th and 20th century, public schooling gradually evolved toward what we recognize today as conventional schooling. Just as adults put in their 8-hour day at their place of employment, children today put in their 6 hours a day at school, plus another hour or more of homework, and often more hours of lessons outside of school. Over time, children's lives have become increasingly defined and structured by the school curriculum. Children now are almost universally identified by their grade standard in school, much as adults. Our schools are, in a sense, factories in which the raw products, children, are to be shaped and fashioned into products to meet the various demands of life. The specification for manufacturing come from the demands of the 20th century civilization, and it is the business of the schools to build its pupils according to the specifications laid down. In today's world, filled with constant disruption and innovations in every industry, the education system has somehow managed to remain the same over the past few decades. Sure, the curriculum in schools may have expanded, but the fundamental way in which education is imparted to students remains unchanged. The striking similarities between school and the factory model, even to this day, is uncanny. We are no longer living in an industrial age, but in the age of internet and artificial intelligence, where our current education system has become more irrelevant than ever. And this is why homeschooling and alternative non-educational schools have seen a surge in popularity in the recent decades. For instance, in the United States, the number of homeschooled children almost doubled from 8.5 million in 1999 to around 16.9 million in 2016. We may not be able to do our schooling all over again, but for those of us with young kids, these are options well worth exploring. I am on a mission to help people live better and happier lives. If you found some value in this video, kindly consider supporting my work by giving this video a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.